Okay. Hi. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Plumbers of Data Science. Again, on LinkedIn, you can watch the recording on YouTube and all the other recordings on my YouTube channel, Plumbers of Data Science. Today, we are going to talk about data engineering. Where does it come from? How does it work? Or where does it come from? Because a lot of people are asking me, where, Andreas, how does that fit in, and what's data engineering? And to basically get into data engineering and find out what it is, I have made two slides that start with data science, the data science process behind data science. So let's check this out. Hello, everybody. See the first comment. Hi, Supam. Yeah. Let me quickly go over. Basically, the how this works and how I'm doing the streams is I'm having some stuff prepared, and after I finished, we can talk about questions and some stuff. And yeah, okay. So what I have prepared is this. You may have seen this on a recent, on a previous LinkedIn post. And the idea is, if you want to understand data engineering, where does that come from? You should look at what is the process of doing data science, of doing machine learning, and that helps a lot in actually finding out how this works. So what you have is, when you look at machine learning, you're starting with training of your algorithms. So you train your algorithm, and let me just think. Yeah, I need to let the run. So you start with training the algorithm, and for training the algorithm, what do you need? You need some input data and a config, and what then comes out of the algorithm is a output. Output can be a lot of things. Doesn't really matter right now. So you generate an output, and then what you do is you look at the output, and then you decide, is that good or is that bad? Is that what I have expected, or is that something different? And if that is, if it's not, then what you do is you go back and you start the training again, and again, and again, and again, and again. You get the idea, and you do this 10,000, 100,000, whatever. And once you say, okay, now it's okay, now it runs, then you deploy it into production. This means you're running it against live data. Previously, what you've done, the input data here, that is most of the time isn't live data, is it's recorded data or whatever, or some older data. And I guess this is a lot, and you apply it then to the live data. And from the live data, when you have the algorithm in production, you generate an output. And this output then delivers some business function. And yeah, you don't really know, is that, or you usually know, is that good or is that bad? And is that the expected output again? It's just like here in the training phase. Now, okay, of course, this stuff doesn't work all the time, and so and forever. So what you do is you monitor the performance of the algorithm in production. And what happens there is, when you monitor it, at some point you see that the algorithm isn't working so good, and you need to retrain it. And then what you do, you trigger a retraining phase and start again with the training. and yeah, train the model with new data, with additional data, come to a good output, and then you put it back into production. It's a very simple process, and I think a lot of data scientists know this, and can see how this works. This is also the difference between here you can draw a line basically here. This is something like a here you can do a POC, a proof of concept you would do here, where you just test stuff out, and then this thing here, this is production. Hi everybody. Hi. If you have any questions again, please put them in the chat. I'm going to get to every question, so anytime put it in. Yeah. So this is the first part. Now, where's the data engineering part in this? It's not 100% clear, right? Where is it? So the next thing you should do is you look further and closer into basically the algorithm that is behind here. And this is the next thing. Andrew asks, hey, would the monitoring be, say, a comparison between the output and actuals? Yeah. That would be something if you want to, if you have a labeled data set, and yeah, your algorithm, your model creates a output, and then you basically test it against the previously labeled data, and you come to a conclusion how high is the how is that called in English? How high is the percentage of difference, or where your algorithm is wrong, for instance. So back for data engineering. Let me just no, that's not what I wanted. Data engineering. Now when you look at the model, now we're getting more into the part of where the data engineer is working with. You're welcome, Andrew. You have the model. This is where the algorithm work is done, and where the data scientist is doing all the work and training and so on. And what are the inputs of the model here? What is going in and what is coming out? And so when you work with the model, you need configurations. So you need these hyperparameter configurations. You need to configure this somehow. Another thing is what you need actual data. You need data to process. You need data to train this thing with. And this is all, now we're getting into the department of data engineering data. So this data needs to come somewhere. So the data engineer is, from what I have seen, is usually the guy who is providing this data, who is giving the data engineer, the data scientist in production, a way of storing these, of managing these. The data isn't just data. Data has a lot more parts. There is more to data, because data is, of course, you have your live data. For instance, if you're like where I'm coming from the IoT sector, you have your device, your car or whatever, and these are sending data. But then what you have is basically governance. Who is responsible for this data? Who is making sure that this data is correct? Where does it come from? And information about this data, and who is allowed to process this data. then then you have lineage. Lineage is something like if you pre-process data, or if you reprocess data. So you have the raw data, and at one point, then you do a processing step, like this. You have raw data. You process it, P1. Then you have result 1. Then you process it again. Yeah, you get the point. You process it again, and then you have another result of data. And so there is a lineage. This data comes from this because it's been processed like this, and so on and so on. And so you have you could also call it a timeline. And what has happened with the data. Then you have a catalog. This is basically a bit like Andrew said. You have your labels here. What is this data labeled? Is this okay? Is this is this fault A, fault B, fault C? Is this a person, a dog, a cat? You get the idea. And then you have features. This is basically how the from a car, how big are the tires? How big is the hood? How tall is it? Does it have a big cab, or is it a small? How long is it completely, and so on. So these are basically the features, and this is you need all this. You need to store and manage all this to for that the data scientist knows how can he train, what data does he need to train this model, and how does it look, how does it work. And so this is, now we're getting more into the data engineering part, and this is this comes to Gaurav's question here. What's exactly the fine difference between these two terms, data engineering and data scientist, or data engineer and data scientist? The difference is this, and I always explain it this way, and a lot of people disagree, but this is what I have seen, and this is how I'm describing it. The data engineer, he is here to generate the output, to generate the knowledge from the data. It doesn't 100% matter what he's doing. Usually they are doing machine learning. They could do natural language processing and image recognition, and so on and so on. So they are doing the science part behind it. They are making something from raw data, from data, some generating business value from that. And so this is the one side. This is the data scientist side, generating business value out of data. And the data engineer then, the data engineer is the guy who is managing the data, who is getting the data in, who is setting up the platforms, who is setting up the pipelines, so that the data comes, is accessible to the data scientists, is flowing through the platform, and the results of the data scientist's work is then presented to the customer, or sent somewhere, or made accessible through a API, whatever. So the data engineer is there. He's handling the data. He is organizing it, sometimes pre-processing it, but the actual science part, the actual generating new knowledge out of the data, this is the data scientist. That's the data scientist, and this is it's very, very easy to see if you look at this process here. Let me just go back. Here you have the process with which the data scientist is working. He's training models. He's then putting them in production, and they are generating the output, which is basically the business value. And then that's the main goal here of the data scientist. finding a way to get input data and work with it to generate a business value output. And the data engineer is making sure that when the data scientist comes and he's working with all this, that he can get the data in. Oh, whoops. No, that's not what I want to do. That he can get the data in, can manage the data, the configurations, and that the results are getting put somewhere. That's the main goal here. No, does that make sense to you, Gaurav? Okay. Yeah. So this is basically how you get to data engineering. Now, I'm doing a lot of work with data engineering, and I'm putting out a lot of information about data engineering. And I don't know if you have already seen it. Let me just pull it up. Where is my browser here? I'm writing a cookbook on this. So here, let me just share my screen. So I'm writing a data engineering cookbook. It's free on GitHub. It's a lot of stuff in there. It's not there are a lot of case studies, links to case studies, or how people are doing data science on their platforms and the data engineering, and so on and so on. I recently added recommended books, so if you have missed the previous video about the most interesting books for me, which are basically the business books, you can watch it. If you're watching this on my YouTube channel, I'm going to put a link up there to that video, like all the other videos. If you want to see all the other videos I've done, this is 115 or 16. Check out my YouTube channel, Plumbers of Data Science. You find a lot of stuff there. And yeah, this is completely free. All the links are there. Check it out. I'm going to put the link in the. Now I'm on the other computer. You can go to my website, or yeah. Let me just. Can I zoom this in here? No. You can go to my website. It's also on my website, andreaskretz.com, and you basically have the link to the cookbook right there. So no worries, you can always get to it. There's also the link to my YouTube channel and the blog, and so on and so on. Yeah. That's it already. If you have any more questions, let me know. I just want to quickly plug my my Patreon, my support. If you like this and like what I do, like the cookbook and so on, you want to support this channel and make everything like this possible, the green screen, the equipment, and so on, check out my Patreon, patreon.com/AndreasKretz. Should be somewhere here. And become a patron and support this thing. Okay. Thanks a lot. I know it's quite late, so I want to make a video every day. So yeah, the idea is every day I get an idea and I throw an idea out there, and we have a discussion about it, and you can enjoy this. And then yeah, if looks like there are no more comments, see you all tomorrow. Bye bye.